On today's episode, we're going to be talking about Miss Daisy Louise C. DeMelker, popularly known as Daisy DeMelker. She was a South African nurse who poisoned her two husbands with strychnine for their life insurance. Now, she also poisoned her only son with arsenic for reasons that are still unclear to this day. Now, get this. Daisy DeMelker was the second woman in South Africa criminal history to have been hanged. And now you could tell that this lady's life was a bit crazy. When she was 12, she moved to Rhodesia in Bulawayo to live with her father and her two brothers. 3 years later, she became a boarder in Good Hope Seminary School in Cape Town. She returned to Rhodesia in 1903, but soon moved to the colony of Natal to enroll at Berea Nursing Home in Durban. On one of her holidays in Rhodesia, Daisy fell in love with a young man named Bert Fuller, a civil servant at the Natives Affairs Department at Broken Hill. They had planned to marry. Unfortunately, Fuller contracted a black water fever and died. Daisy by his bedside on the very same day they had planned to marry. Fuller had a will bequeathing of €100 to his fiancée. Now remember, this was like back in 1907. €100 was about like 3,000. In March 1909, 18 months after Fuller's death, Daisy married William Alfred Cowell, a plumber in Johannesburg. She was 22, he was 36. The couple had 5 children, 4 whom died. The first 2 were twins, whom died at infancy. Third child suffered an abscess on the liver, and the fourth a convulsions and bowel and died at 15 months old. Their only surviving son, Rhodes Cecil, was born on June 1911. In the early morning of 11 January 1923, Alfred Cowell became ill after taking Epsom salt, which was prepared by his wife, Daisy. And the first doctor who attended William didn't consider his condition serious, as he prescribed bromide mixture and left. But as soon as the first doctor left, William's condition deteriorated rapidly and it took a turn for the worse. Daisy summoned her neighbors to help him call for another doctor. When he arrived, he had foamed in his mouth and went blue in the face and screamed in agony if anyone touched him. Now, faced with these symptoms, the second doctor suspected strychnine poisoning and refused to sign a death certificate. The postmortem was subsequently performed by an acting district, Dr. Fergus, and he ruled the cause of death to be a chronic nephritis and cerebral hemorrhage. Now, Daisy, on the other hand, as the sole beneficiary of her husband's will, inherited €1,795. On the 11th of January 1926, at then 36-year-old Daisy married another plumber by the name of Robert Sprout. He was 10 years her senior. In October 1927, Robert became violently ill after suffering an excruciating pain and severe muscle spasm, similar to those ones experienced by the late husband of Daisy, Mr. Cowell. But luckily he recovered, but only to suffer a second attack a few weeks later after drinking beer in the company of his wife and his stepson, Rose. He died on the 6th of November. Now, Dr. Malnick, the attending physician, ruled the cause of death as arteriosclerosis and cerebral hemorrhage. No autopsy was done following the death of Robert, and his widow inherited over €4,000 and 560 of his pension fund. On the 21st of March 1931, Daisy married for the 3rd time. Her husband was a widower, Sidney Clarence DeMelker. Like her 2 previous husbands, he was also a plumber. In late February 1932, Daisy had traveled from Germiston on the East Rand to Telfontein to obtain arsenic and she used the previous name, Sprout. She claimed she needed the poison to destroy a sick cat. Less than a week later, Rhodes, her son, fell ill at work after drinking coffee from a thermos flask that was prepared by his mother. And a fellow co-worker, James Webster, also fell violently ill after drinking the same coffee. But luckily he drank just a little bit, so he recovered within a few days. But unfortunately, Rhodes died on the 5th of March at home, and the cause of death was ruled out to be cerebral malaria. And he was buried the following day at the New Brixton Cemetery. On the 1st of April, Daisy received €100 from her son's life insurance. People, this lady was her son? The motive behind Daisy killing her son is still unclear. Unlike her two previous husbands, the motive seemed to be financial gain. Lord Rhodes, he was under the impression that it was going to become of inheritance at age 21. So he was asking more than what his mother could give him. So an obvious answer is that he became a disappointment to Daisy. She pampered him all his life and rarely showed any consideration. By the time Daisy's former brother-in-law, William Sprout, raised suspicions on his brother's death, on the 15th of April 1932, the police issued a court order permitting them to exhume the bodies of Robert, Cal, and Rhodes. Now, even though Rhodes were in a good state of preservation, they were able to find traces of arsenic. The forensic pathologist was able to isolate the arsenic from the viscera, backbone, and hair. With Robert and Cal, their remains were largely decomposed because it's been a long time after they died. But they were able to find traces of strychnine because both men had pinkish discoloration, and which resulted in that they had taken pink strychnine.